Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Liberation Organization and an avid Holocaust denier and supporter of Palestinian terrorism, was treated as a dignitary by the Obama administration at the White House last week. This meeting comes just after U.S. President Barack Obama unabashedly pressured Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to make dangerous concessions for a peace agreement with the Palestinians. Netanyahu told the president and the world that Israel has been doing its part, but the Palestinians have not. He said, "We want peace, not a piece of paper." In a huge slight to the Jewish state, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has informed members of the Congress that Israel is making a mistake by demanding that the Palestinians recognize the Jewish state. In his address to the House Foreign Relations Committee, Kerry said, "I think it's a mistake to raise this issue again and again as the critical decider toward the possibility of a state and peace." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made the recognition of the Jewish state a minimal requirement for peace, saying that any serious agreement must be based on Israel's right to exist.
Despite the facade of willingness to negotiate on their nuclear program, Iranian officials continue to threaten Israel by attempting to procure parts necessary to build nuclear weapons. An Iranian Air Force commander told the country's Fars news agency that the Iranian regime has its finger on the trigger to destroy Israel. Brigadier General Hossein Salami boasted that Iran is capable of destroying every spot under the control of the Zionist regime from its own territory, and that Islam has given them the capacity and the power to cause Israel's destruction from 1,400 kilometers away. These statements come as a senior member of the U.S. State Department issued a report accusing the hardline Islamic regime of continuing its efforts to acquire supplies to build atomic bombs. According to the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for International Security and Non-Proliferation, the Islamic Republic is very actively trying to procure items for both its nuclear and its missile programs. Van Diepen told reporters that Iran is setting up and operating front companies, falsifying documentation, and engaging in multiple levels of transshipment to put more apparent distance between where an item originated and where it's ultimately delivered. Van Diepen painted a grim picture for the outcome of long-term negotiations, saying that a deal on Iran isn't even on the agenda during the current round of talks.
An Israeli doctor treating wounded Syrian children has released a chilling statement saying that Syrian snipers are intentionally paralyzing children. A senior physician at the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit of the Western Galilee Hospital said the children he has treated were intentionally paralyzed by Syrian snipers. Dr. Yoav Hoffman said the injuries are very specific. Gunshot wounds from a single bullet to the lumbar spine near vertebrates 2 and 3. These shootings are not intended to kill, but to cause misery. They result in paralysis or slow death. Israel has treated more than 1,000 Syrians wounded from the civil war, which has ripped the country apart over the past 3 years. The children maimed by the sniper fire have been treated, often surgically, in Israeli hospitals free of charge. After their recovery, they are transported back home with wheelchairs donated to them by Israel.
The Israeli Aviation Authority has announced its decision to increase security in the aftermath of the missing Malaysian Flight 370. Pilots of all international aircraft are now being requested to identify themselves and confirm that they are in control of their aircraft before they're allowed to enter Israeli airspace. Aviation experts are speculating that if the missing airliner has been hijacked, it could be used as a weapon of terror against the Jewish state. Israel has mobilized its aerial defense systems and remains in a state of high alert. An Israeli intelligence official reportedly told Fox News that until the Malaysian jet has been located, the Jewish state must view it as a potential weapon.
Residents of southern Israel suffered through 4 days of misery last week when Palestinians fired more than 150 rockets and mortars from Gaza. The Islamic Jihad terrorist group claimed responsibility for organizing the barrage of missiles which sent Israelis scrambling for bomb shelters. The defense minister of Iran released a statement encouraging Palestinian terrorism and saying that the operational power of resistance against the Zionist regime is 1,000 times more than it was before. Iran was recently caught shipping powerful surface-to-surface missiles to Palestinian terrorists in Gaza, and this statement seems to suggest that Tehran has successfully armed the Palestinians with at least some sophisticated weapons.
4 Israeli border guards were run down by a vehicle driven by a Palestinian man who sped through a checkpoint last week. The Arab driver put all 4 of the victims in the hospital after he refused to stop or even slow down at the crossing. His car stopped only when Israeli soldiers fired at its tires. And in a related story, an IDF soldier narrowly escaped a kidnapping attempt last week. According to a statement, the soldier, a Druze resident from the village of Beit Jan, claimed that 3 Palestinian men attempted to force him into their car and that he escaped by running into a nearby olive grove. Palestinian groups have increased their calls to kidnap Israeli soldiers for use as bargaining chips in negotiating their demands. The IDF has heightened the security alert for troops around the country.
An Arab resident of Jerusalem was arrested last week for sabotaging natural gas lines in an attempt to blow up Jewish houses. 50-year-old Musa Salam Assad allegedly cut the gas pipes of several residential buildings in Jerusalem in an attempt to kill Jews. The man has admitted to the sabotage, saying that he wanted revenge for the increased Jewish presence on the Temple Mount, the holiest site in Judaism. In his interrogation, he told police that he planned the attacks to occur at times when the buildings would be full of Jews. 2 years ago, Assad attempted to murder a Jewish man in the old city of Jerusalem by attacking him with an axe.
The United States Senate has unanimously passed a bill to honor Israeli President Shimon Peres with the Congressional Gold Medal. Peres was awarded with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in June of 2012. That and the proposed Congressional Gold Medal are the highest honors that can be awarded to a civilian by the United States government. The bill's sponsor, Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte of New Hampshire, said that it is her pleasure to honor President Peres' extraordinary record of service that has strengthened the unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel, the country's closest and most reliable ally in the Middle East, and that the legislation demonstrates that the United States stands shoulder to shoulder with the people of Israel in these uncertain times.
Norwegian Cruise Lines has announced that it will not return to the port of Tunisia. Last week, we reported that Israelis on the Norwegian Jade were denied entry into Tunisia and were informed by the ship's captain that they would need to stay on board the vessel while the other passengers disembarked for a day trip. A week later, the cruise line's CEO released a statement saying, "We want to send a strong message to Tunisia and ports around the world that we will not tolerate such random acts of discrimination against our guests." The statement went on to say that as a result of Tunisia's impromptu decision to ban Israelis from entering their country, the Norwegian Cruise Line has canceled all remaining visits to Tunisia and will not return.
The month of February marked an all-time high of visitors to the Jewish state of Israel. More than 244,000 tourists visited the country during the 28 days, representing the greatest number of tourists to the Holy Land for that period. Israeli Minister of Tourism Uzi Landau said that both January and February were an excellent start to the 2014 tourism year, following record-breaking numbers of incoming tourists during 2013. Landau said that Israel is working intensively to improve the quality of the tourism product to effectively market the country around the world and to also strengthen domestic tourism so that the current year will also come to be another record year for visitors.
Jews around the world celebrated the holiday of Purim last week. This celebration commemorates the pardon of the Jews of Persia by King Ahasuerus after it was decreed that they would die. Many have drawn parallels between the madman Haman, who hated the Jews and carefully planned their annihilation, with the leaders of the modern-day Persian Empire. Iran has repeatedly declared its intention to wipe Israel off the map and is working feverishly to obtain the weapons to do so. Tehran has managed to isolate Israel from the international community by deceiving the world with the ruse of diplomacy. The story of Purim, written in the book of Esther, holds a reassuring message in these uncertain times that if we are diligent and faithful, God will find a way to save the chosen people, just as he did in Persia more than 2,000 years ago.
And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here yet again in another beautiful day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Jay Schultz, the president of the Israel Foundation. Jay, thank you for being on the show.
Josh, thanks for having me.
Tell our viewers a little bit about what is the Israel Foundation.
The Israel Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing the young Jews home, and specifically to Tel Aviv, bringing them to the land of Israel and increasing the ingathering of the exiles.
You know, the Israel Foundation is an umbrella organization over 8 different organizations, all dealing with Tel Aviv. You know, why is it so important for Olim to come to Tel Aviv specifically?
Well, Tel Aviv is the center of power today for the land of Israel. You know, Tel Aviv is today physically the powerhouse of the country. It's where the army is. It's where the high tech is. It's where the startup nation springs from. And today, most Israelis look to Tel Aviv for inspiration. It's where television is, and radio and fashion. And as long as Tel Aviv represents the most desirable place in the land of Israel for most young Jews not living here to think to want to come to, and it's where the jobs are, it's where they really should come to.
Yeah, Tel Aviv is seen as a primarily secular city, yet we're seeing more people with kippot, yarmulkes on their head, moving there and bringing Judaism back to the city. You've been one of the trailblazers in that movement. Why is it so important to bring back the Bible to Tel Aviv?
Well, first I'd like to say I don't think there's any part of the land of Israel that is secular. Every part of this land has holiness, has kedusha, has that level of unique spirituality that can't be found anywhere else in the world. But specifically Tel Aviv, because it's his power. Power is neutral. And if I gave you $10 million and a gun, you could do a lot of damage or do a lot of good. And if good people are there, good things happen. You know, Tel Aviv is very significant in the Bible, and I think people don't recognize that. The full name of Tel Aviv is Tel Aviv Yafo. It's a single city, and Yafo plays very prominently in the Bible. It's where when King Solomon wanted to build the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, the first foundations of the temple came to Israel through that. They came through the port of Tel Aviv, Yafo, and then came to Jerusalem. And so, same too with the second temple. And I will say that the merit of the third temple will spiritually and physically also come through Tel Aviv, because it happened twice before.
Our viewership is primarily Christian, and when they come to Israel, they mostly go to Jerusalem, they mostly go to Tiberias, to the Lake of Kinneret. Why do you think they should also go to Tel Aviv?
Tel Aviv is exciting. Tel Aviv is very exciting. Tel Aviv is a non-stop city. Tel Aviv is the culture capital of Israel in many ways. Tel Aviv is, to me, the most exciting thing happening in the Jewish world. And it's important to be part of that. It's not just the beaches, it's the art galleries, it's the restaurants. It's being part of the new international part of Tel Aviv, which has become a massive global city.
More and more international people are moving to Tel Aviv. In fact, you were called just recently the international mayor of Tel Aviv because there are so many people, I think 15,000 new immigrants who came to Tel Aviv. What is drawing them there?
Well, in the last 5 years, the internationals, the young Jews of Tel Aviv, this demographic has tripled. And that's exciting. That is showing us that the diaspora is melting away, according to biblical prophecy, as it should. And they're coming to Tel Aviv for many reasons. It's a young city. Tel Aviv is actually the youngest, one of the top 5 youngest cities in the world. 40% of the cities between 18 and 40, it really is a college campus. And it's also for young Jews where you can come to Israel and be substantive. You can be part of the story of the Jewish people. You know, young Olim, young Jews moving to Israel today come because they want to be a pioneer. They want to roll up their sleeves, get their hands dirty, and better this country. And that's exciting. And I, as a young Jew, I can't do that in Europe and I can't do that in America. This is the place.
Yeah, we've just got the polls out from the Pew survey saying that secular Judaism in America is really just dying out. Do you believe by getting Jews in America excited about Tel Aviv that you can help them to retain their Jewish identity in the land of Israel?
You know, I think that in 100 years, either you live in Israel or you're extremely, extremely religious, or you're probably not Jewish. And it really is a Holocaust of a different kind today. And I think every Jew that moves to Israel is taking care of himself, his family, and his great-great-grandchildren. And coming to Israel today, with a little bit of energy and effort, you can be part of the next 1,000 years of Jewish history. That's exciting.
You've been involved in many different organizations dealing with new immigrants in Tel Aviv. What's the future? What is the future going to bring to us?
I think the future is these young Jews coming and filling the vacuum of Israel. You know, Israel just started. We have a lot of problems in this country. We're 65 years old. You know, 65 years after America started, we had civil war. Israel's doing pretty great for being this new. But there are still vacuums, and I think there's 13 million vacuums in Israel. Every Jew is needed. And I think the new young internationals coming to Tel Aviv are filling the gaps in civil society, in community, in charity, in volunteerism, things that we got growing up in America that are so incredibly valuable this country needs today. And I think that's the future.
Jay, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, first, please come home. Please visit Tel Aviv, specifically with our White City Shabbat organization. In May, we got the Guinness Book of World Records to create a new category called the World's Largest Shabbat Dinner. We're going to have over 1,000 young people in Tel Aviv together for Shabbat, creating a new world record. I invite you all.
Thank you, Jay, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
This morning, I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. And here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine. We regard the agreement signed last night as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again.
When Hitler rose to power, no one believed that he would actually do the things that he said.
You know, our history teaches us something very simple. When an enemy says he's going to annihilate you, believe them.
Iran today poses a danger that threatens to engulf the entire world in chaos.
A nuclear-armed Iran is a grave danger to the peace and security of the entire world.
Diplomacy has failed.
Will sanctions work?
If diplomacy doesn't work, the clock could run out.
We've wasted years on failed diplomacy. There's no chance that Iran will be talked out of its nuclear weapons program.
Iran is believed to be expanding right now its uranium enrichment activity deep inside of a mountain bunker.
Iran has tripled the pace of production of 20% grade uranium. They're transferring their facilities underground to be immune.
Time is running out.
They're racing towards acquiring a nuclear weapon.
None of us can afford to wait much longer.
ایران ملت‌های منطقه با مشت محکم دهن شما خواهند
وأن تكون قنبلة ذرية إيران وباكستان قنابل ضد إسرائيل ونهتف كما هتفنا في طهران مار جبار إسرائيل مار جبار أمريكا.
For the sake of our prosperity, for the sake of our security, for the sake of our children, Iran must
stop.
Be
Iran.
Stop
now. Last time, the world was silent. This time, our voices will be heard.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
You know, the other day I was just thinking that everything that I have and everything that I know how to do, I learned it from someone. Just the same way I'm walking right now. I learned it when I was born, and then after that, I observed my surroundings, I observed my parents, and then I just learned how to walk. The same way when I went to school, I learned how to read and write because my teachers showed me how to do that. You know, in Philippians 3:17, Paul is talking to the church and saying that imitate me, because Paul was imitating Jesus. So Paul was telling to the church that we need to imitate Jesus, and we need to have mentors. We need to have people who guide us on how to live our lives. You know, in Proverbs 4, we can read that the Word says that the Word will give you insight and wisdom to your life. In Hebrews 4, you can read that the Word is sharper than a two-edged sword. So surely the Bible is the best guide in how to get to know what God wants you and me to do with our lives. Just the same way I'm driving with a car. My driver's instructor when I was younger taught me how to drive because I was following his instructions. While we're driving in our lives, we need to be looking all the time to our surroundings. We need to be looking at others. We need to be looking at the threats and opportunities that life brings us every single day. While we're looking at what's happening out there, one of the important things that we should be looking at is Israel. Because God has used Israel since day one in His plans, and He's still using Israel. So there are certain things in the spiritual life and even in the physical land of Israel that are happening at the moment which will affect our lives, because the Bible says that. So while we're driving our vehicles, we're driving our lives, we need to be looking at our surroundings, and one of those surroundings is Israel. So now when you're driving the vehicle of your life and you're looking at your surroundings, God will place people in your vehicle. Because we as Christians, this life is not about us, but it's about us serving others, just the same way Jesus did. Ephesians 5 says that we are not supposed to sleep, but we need to arise. Just the same way when we're driving the vehicles of our lives, we cannot sleep because we will simply crash. And that's what we're trying to do with Arise, to wake up the new generation and the current generation to live fully for God and to understand the purposes of God towards Israel. So stay connected with us. Go to our website, arisegeneration.org. From there you can see our awesome online magazine, which is Arise Now, and also our weekly radio show, Arise Base. You can also come to the land of Israel and experience all by yourself and enjoy it from the 15th to the 25th of July in our Arise Summer Tour. So God bless you from Jerusalem, and I hope to see you with us. What an exciting place to be, what an exciting place to visit. I'm talking to you about the land of Israel, the place where Jesus was born, and Jesus did his full ministry and went up to heaven. We'll come back one day to this very same land. Now you have the opportunity to come and visit this place in the Summer Tour 2014. This place is colorful, it's tasty, it opens the Bible in a new way, and it is very diverse. I will give you a small tour. Now we're in the desert. The beach, culture, history, big city life, awesome food. Israel is not just camels, hummus, and desert. Israel is also modern society, and one of the examples is the city of Tel Aviv, having beautiful beaches like this. In the summertime, these beaches are packed, and you can enjoy also this beautiful beach when we come to the summer tour, to this exact same place. So come along the summer tour 2014 to enjoy the land of Israel.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.